Hi, how y'all doing? I'm going to talk to you today about the statistics on Central Americans. Now, I'm not racist, I'm real. Okay? So don't write me any little nasty email or something. I'm not racist, I'm real. I mean, 1 plus 1 is 2. And I'll say it's 2. Okay? 1 plus 1 is not 16. So don't write me any silly emails saying I'm racist, I'm real. I'm looking at statistics. These statistics are from a lot of different places: the Brookings Institute, the Center for Immigration Studies, the Census Bureau, from Texas. It's right there on Google for you to see. But I think that, we as Americans, as natural-born citizens, as real citizens, not fake citizens, we have a right to know who's in this country. And we have the right to know the caliber of people that's in this country. We have a right to know that. I'm talking about the Central American statistics. Now, I'm not talking about other ethnic groups because there's not really a lot of data on other ethnic groups. I'm not talking about the Russians and a little bit of Chinese that come over here and a little bit of Africans that come over here. The biggest horde of illegal immigrants comes from Central America. So that's what my focus on, and they're everywhere. Okay. Now, what the Center for Immigration Studies says, as poverty increases, which when they come over here poor with nothing, they leave their Central America with nothing, poor. They come over here with nothing. Okay, so, they're already poverty stricken, so-called, okay? But there's, they don't worry about it because they know they're going to cheat when they get here, okay? But as there's an increase in poverty, there's an increase in welfare use, and a decrease in the average income, and a decrease in the education. The statistics say that the average educational level of a Central American adult is the 2nd grade. Okay, that's what they say. That's what's out there. The number of illegal immigrants has increased 28-fold since about 1970. El Salvador, the number 2 murder capital of the world, has the highest number of people coming over here. Besides Honduras, which is the number 1 murder capital of the world, El Salvador is number 2. Okay, so we're getting all that. We're not getting escapees trying to have a quote unquote better life, and we're getting all that. Whatever El Salvador has to deal with, whatever Honduras has to deal with, we now have to deal with. If El Salvador and Honduras has to deal with rapists and murderers, then we have to deal with them. Excuse me for that. In 1970, 49% of Central Americans have not completed high school. In 2018, 47% of Central Americans have not completed high school. And, I'm not surprised at that. I mean, I've heard of, even in my community, my metropolitan area, I have heard of, Central Americans that were 19 years old in 9th grade. I've heard of that. In 2018, 56% of Central Americans use welfare benefits, which means the housing where the government pays the rent, food subsidies, food stamps, and a welfare check. If they have U.S.-born children, they receive even more benefits. Now, I think that statistic is much higher. That statistic, in my opinion, is more like 99.9% of Central Americans using welfare benefits, not 56. But see, because of the language barrier, that's all they can come up with. But I think it's, like I said, I think it's more closer to 99.9%. Of the Central Americans using welfare benefits. And of course, the more U.S. born children they have, the more they're going to have. I mean, I see that they will have 3 or 4 toddlers under the age of 5. So what does that mean? They're going to get a big fat welfare check. Each of those toddlers going to get $300 a month in food stamps. So they're going to, the more children they have, the more U.S. government's going to pay. Now, this is what a lot of Central American men do. The woman gets all the benefits and stuff like that. She gets all the welfare, and they just shack up with her. And sometimes the men get a welfare check. They'll go tell welfare, I need all these benefits, and they get it just like that. You know what? One time I have been to social services in 2 different jurisdictions. I remember doing some statistics, even in my own mind. There were about 14, 15 people in line. And 2 of those were black, 1 was white, and the rest were Central Americans. That means they were 97% of the people that were in that queue at that particular hour of the day. Now, I heard at the social services that are in other jurisdictions, it's the same thing. 99, even the line is going all the way out the door. 99% of the people in that line are Central Americans. Food stamps, they get 2.5 times, likely to get 2.5 times in food stamps as a native. Medicaid, they like to get twice that of a native. And like I said, I think those statistics are much bigger because it's the natives only get, if there is a black female with 3 children, she might get 127 in food stamps, might. And I'm using that as an example. But if a Central American would get $300 per child, but a native girl will only get 127. And I don't know how in the world she's supposed to feed her children off 127. Because I remember, I keep track of what I spend. And I normally don't like to spend a lot of money on food. But look, I do keep track of what I spend. And last month in particular, we spent $300 in food. Okay? That probably has something to do with the holidays or whatever. Okay? But we spent a lot of money. We had to go back and get some this, that, and the other. Like I said, I don't like to spend a lot of money on food. But, you have to buy what you have to buy. And if you want some Cornish hens for Christmas, you got to buy the Cornish hens, y'all. Okay? So last month, my grocery bill was higher than normal. I think it was higher than normal. I don't usually spend that much, but it is what it is. Now, so I don't know what an American girl with 3 children is supposed to do with 127. I mean, it took $300, over $300 just to feed us good. I just eat 1 meal a day. I just eat that 1 decent meal a day. I don't even eat 3 meals a day. So and that was $300. So I don't even know what a black girl with 3 children is supposed to do with 127, but the government will only give a black girl $127 for 3 children. That's all she's going to get. But, a Central American illegal who's not a citizen will get, $300 per child. I'm hearing that's the going rate. $300 per child. So that's $900. That's not including herself. If you include herself, she's going to get $1,200, maybe more. That's in food stamps alone. I'm not even including the welfare check. But look, I'm out in the real world. I'm out in the mud and mire. What a lot of Central Americans do, they get their food stamps, they get their welfare, and they work at a piece of a job. I see them in the laundromats. They work in the restaurants, etc. So what happens in that is, let's get real for a minute. The government pays the rent. The government buys the food. And they make this money on the side unbeknownst to the government. You're supposed to tell the government that you're making extra money. But since they're non-citizens, they don't really exist on paper, they're not going to report it to the government. I know one family that lives behind us. The government pays their rent on the duplex that they used to live in, and then they move into another state or something. They're not there, and the government's still paying the rent on there. But they have moved to another state or another area or something, and the government's paying rent on that. Cheaters. They cheat on food stamps and these housing subsidies all the time. Okay, the government could be buying them a house for all I know. They could be the government could be paying for a house in another state for all I know. See, because she can cheat, it's easy for her to cheat because she's Maria Hernandez in that house behind me, and she is Marie Dale Fernandez in another state. And the government is so stupid, they don't even know what's what. Okay, they don't even know the difference. So if she can cheat in 5 different states if she wanted to. It's plenty of welfare queens. It's plenty of Central American welfare queens. Plenty of them. Plenty of them out there. Okay? So, now what type of diseases do the Central Americans come in. This is all from the Border Patrol. Okay. Measles, uninoculated. Measles, mumps, tuberculosis, a different type of virulent form. Anemia, Chagas disease, which is some type of parasites. And I don't know how to pronounce this. Giardiasis, I don't know. Anyway, it means failure to thrive. Giardiasis. Failure to thrive, which means, you see that in children. Children just can't gain weight, etc. Malaria and hookworm. Okay, so these are some of the diseases. Now, what about the insects? Okay, they bring these gigantic roaches, which are about this big and hard to kill. Okay, and some of these roaches can fly. See, when they come across the border, they got all kinds of junk that's clinging to their clothes. They can have roach eggs clinging to their clothes. And once they step over the border in America, those eggs hatch. And all you need is a male and female from those eggs, and you got an infestation. When I was in Texas for a season, I remember seeing some flying roaches. They were about this big, but they flew because I saw them fly. Okay, I saw them fly. So they bringing in all kinds of insects from Central America. And that's not including the animals that's coming up here. Okay, but what about these gigantic roaches? Those are definitely already here. The Central American roaches, they're about this big. Huge roaches. Hard to kill. You got to have all kinds of roach pattern. Okay, hard to kill. Okay. What about the crime? Now, like I said, I think that these crime statistics are a lot higher, but because of the language barrier, this is the best they can do. Well, first of all, they're already criminals. Once they come across the border, they're already criminals. Because they're coming to the country illegal, that makes them a criminal. They're coming in, they're going to use the country's resources, gas, food, and water, etc. They're already criminals when they come over here. Okay, but see, that type of criminality, the United States government allows. It allows them to be criminals. Okay, the contractors hire them because they want the cheap labor source. So the U.S. government does not care about that. They can cheat all they want to. But when they come across the border, they're already criminals, okay? They represented 24% of federal drug arrests, 25% of the federal property arrests, 28% of the federal fraud arrests. Now, like I said, all this fraud and that's only what they could find. It's a whole lot more out there. I think for every arrest, that's just only what they saw, because the language barrier prevents it. And like I said, they're allowed to cheat. They're the only ethnic group that is allowed to cheat. They're allowed to come across the border illegally. They're allowed to get hired by these contractors. The contractors hire them at $25 an hour. They don't have any type of work permits. They don't have a legal driver's license, nothing. But they're allowed to work because the contractors want to replace the workforce with them. They're allowed to cheat on welfare, get a housing subsidy, get food stamps. The government allows all that. So you see, it's a certain amount of criminality that the government allows. The U.S. Uncle Sam allows. He allows them to cheat on welfare. He allows them to cheat on food stamps. He allows them to get a housing subsidy. And really, what they're doing all around the country, they are kicking blacks out of apartments and putting them in. Okay? That's just what they're doing. Okay, ask Mississippi. They're kicking blacks out of all these Section 8 apartments, and they're putting the illegals in these They're not even Section whatever. See, Section 8 is 80% of the rent paid by the government, but Section whatever for the immigrants is 100% paid for by the government. So they're kicking all the blacks and poor whites out of housing and putting the illegals in, okay? They represented 64% of all federal arrests. And then there's murder, rape, sexual assault, and everything. Now, I was a victim of a crime by an illegal, 16-year-old illegal. He tried to steal the lawnmower gas. Okay? But anyway, I already know he's a criminal, okay? So he's the one who told me that he raped a teenager. He told me that. But the police let him go. Okay? I guess because they didn't want to deal with a stupid illegal kid, 16, 14, 15 years old. They want to deal with it. So he told me the police let him go. Duh. But he told me he sexually assaulted another teenage girl. He told me that. Told me how he did it. Okay? So, and like I said, this same young person, the same 16-year-old kid tried to steal the gas for my lawnmower gas, okay? And in the process, it spilled all over the deck, okay? But around my metropolitan area, sexual assaults of girls between the ages of 12 and 15 seem to be a favorite. I've seen that myself. I mean, I'm always reading in the papers, sexual assault and this Central American illegal 12-year-old girl, 15-year-old girl. That seems to be common. But I do think we have a right to know who is coming into our country. We need to know the caliber of people that's coming into this country. And like I said, I'm not racist, I'm real. These are hardcore statistics. You can go on Google and look at the same data. Have a nice day.